Okay, hello again, Year 8. In this video we're going to have a look at some more questions where we're finding the circumference, but this time questions where we're given the radius rather than the diameter. And so the key relationship that we need to know to be able to do these kind of questions is that the diameter d, which is what we were using in the last video, is always equal to 2 times r, or that 2r. And what that means is that the diameter, or the distance all the way across the circle, is always equal to double the radius, which is that distance from the centre to the edge. So let's have a quick look at a circle to check that that makes sense. So a diameter, as we previously discussed, is this distance across the circle. So it's that distance here through the centre. It's important the diameter has to go through the centre. Now the radius is the distance from the centre to the edge, so we can look at it. A radius in red here is the distance from here to the edge, but we could also see that we could go to the other side and that would also be a radius, and so we can see that 2 radii there, radii being the plural of radius, 2 of those will give you a diameter, so it makes sense that d is always equal to 2r. So to find the circumference here, there are a couple of equations that we can use. One of them is this equation here, which is c equals 2 pi r. And you can just put your value for r into that, just substitute whatever the radius is into this equation, and that will give you the correct answer. So that's a perfectly good way to do it. The way I'm going to talk about here is we can use the same equation as in the previous video, c equals pi d, and it's nice that we can always just use the same equation if we're using distances with circles. But all we have to do is also remember this other one, that d is equal to 2r, to find our diameter d if we're given the radius r. Okay, so let's have a look at an example to demonstrate how to use this. So this example has a circle with radius of 1.25 centimeters. Find the circumference of the circle, correct to 4 decimal places. Right, so let's draw a circle just so we can see what's going on. And I'm going to label the radius in red because I feel like it. So there we go, red for radius, that's the distance there. And we have that r equals 1.25 centimeters. Again, noting our units there is always a good thing to do. 1.25 centimeters. So we can use the relationship now that d, or to find our diameter, is just going to be 2r. And so what that's telling us is we just have to double the radius to find our diameter. So we can substitute in that d is equal to 2 times 1.25. So we can substitute that in. 2 times 1.25, which will simplify up to just our diameter is 2.5 centimeters. Now all we have to do is use the same relationship that we were using before. If given the diameter, we just use that c is equal to pi d, and we can substitute our value in of 2.5 for d. So we're substituting in here, replacing our d with 2.5 because we know our diameter is 2.5 now. And all we have to do from here is we can simplify that to an exact answer. Again, always good to have an exact answer on your page before you round or do an approximation. So we can write that's just equal to 2.5 pi. And then the question didn't tell us to do any other approximations, so we're just going to use our calculator to do the approximation here. And so using our calculator, we'll get that c is approximately equal to 7.8539 81634. Bit of a messy 6. Let's clean up that 6 there. So we got 81634. Okay, so we're asked to round to 4 decimal places. So we're going to have a look at what decimal places we've got here. So we go to the 1, 2, 3, 4th decimal place, and we look at the next one to see if we're rounding up or down. So that 8's bigger than 5, so it's going to round our 9 up to a 0, because really it's rounding that 9 up to a 10, we're going to round this 3 9 up to a 4 0, just like rounding 39 up to 40. So our final answer here to 4 decimal places is going to be that C is approximately equal to 7.8540, and that's in centimetres and correct to 4 decimal places. So that's our answer here. And let's look at one last example here, just with a different approximation method here, but also using the radius to find our circumference. So this question says we've got a circle with a radius of 17 millimeters, and it wants us to use the approximation pi equals 22 over 7 to find our circumference to the nearest millimeter. So let's draw it as always to show what's going on. So we've got our radius here in red, that's that distance there, and we're told that r is equal to 17, so that's a good place to start. So r equals 17. Now again, we can use our relationship that d is equal to 2r, that the diameter is double of the radius, to find the value for our diameter. So we can just substitute in 17 for our r here, and double that in this equation to find our value for d. So we should get that d is 2 times 17, which is 34 millimeters. Now to find our circumference, all we have to do is substitute that value of d into the equation c equals pi d. And so to substitute that in, we're going to replace our d with 34. So we've got c equals pi times 34, and so we just replace that d with 34 in our equation, and then to get an exact answer we just write that as 34 pi, which is again always a really nice thing to have an exact answer. Now for this question it asks us to use an approximation to pi of pi equals 22 over 7. So what we have to do now, instead of using our calculator button for pi to calculate this, we just substitute in 22 over 7 for our approximate value of pi. So when we do this, we just have to be careful. We use an approximation again, and that's 34, and we're going to use 22 over 7 as our approximate value of pi. Now that's the value we want to put into our calculator to check this answer, and hopefully we get that c is approximately equal to, should be 106.857, so on, 106.857, using our calculator, which of course to the nearest, we just have to look at our first decimal place there, and that 8 will round us up to 107 millimeters. That is our answer to the nearest millimeter there. And so just a quick summary here to wrap up the main point from this video is that you can still use the same equation, c equals pi d, to find your circumference. Even if you're given the radius, you just also need to use the relationship that diameter is double the radius first to do that, to find your diameter from the radius, and then use that in value for d in the equation c equals pi d. Or you can use the equation c equals 2 pi r, and that will do it for you. But I also quite like the benefit of always using the same calculation for distance equations with c equals pi d. But I'll leave that up to you.